Right, okay, let's open our book to the preface, which is literally our first page in the big book, not number one, just the preface. And I'd like you to write at the top of the page in big letters, history. And here we're going to be looking at the history of Alcoholics Anonymous. What I'd like you to write also is not my message, but the message. My message, remember, nearly killed me. So this is not my message. What we're going to be doing, we're going to be reading through the big book. My understanding of the words might be a little bit different from your understanding of the words. So we will talk about it and we will basically try to understand what they meant. Remember also the solution and the whole program of recovery is 164 pages. At the end of 164 pages, something should have happened to us. That might be a spiritual awakening, a psychic change, or personality change. What it really means, it's something will have changed within us. Something new, some information will have brought about some changes. So, Becky, do you want to take us, please?
This is the 4th edition of the book Alcoholics Anonymous. The first edition appeared in April 1939, and in the following 16 years, more than 300,000 copies went into circulation.
Can you highlight 1939? You can use any colors you want, but what I want you to do is make sure that for each thing we're going to highlight, you use a different color. We don't want everything to be highlighted in the same color. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to differentiate one part to another.
The second edition, published in 1955, reached a total of more than 1,150,500 copies.
Can you highlight 1955?
The third edition, which came off press in 1976, achieved a circulation of 11,698,000.
Okay, can you highlight 1976? And there is something which is quite interesting here, because in my copy of the big book, which is an old copy of the big book, I have 19,550,000 copies in all format. The newest version should have 11,950,000. So I don't know if it was a typo or if it was just the alcoholic being so grandiose, but they didn't make a mistake by a few 100,000. They made a mistake by a few million.
Because this book has become the basic text for our society and has helped such large numbers of alcoholic men and women to recovery, there exists strong sentiment against any radical changes being made in it. Therefore, the first portion of this volume describing the AA recovery program has been left untouched in the course of revisions made for the second, third and fourth editions.
Scott, can you highlight? Therefore, the first portion of this volume describing the AA recovery program has been left untouched. And can you write on the side 11 chapters, 164 pages? This is the program of recovery. So why has it been left untouched?
Because it works.
Because it works. Absolutely. Because it works. Only a few words have been changed, but the program of recovery has been left largely untouched.
The section called The Doctor's Opinion has been kept intact just as it was originally written in 1939 by the late Dr. William D. Silkworth, our society's great medical benefactor.
Can you highlight? In 1939 by the late Dr. William D. Silkworth, our society's great medical benefactor. And Dr. Silkworth, as we will learn a little bit later on, was a medical director of a well-known hospital in New York City treating alcoholics and drug addicts.
The second edition added the appendices, the 12 traditions, and the directions for getting in touch with AA. But the chief change was in the section of personal stories, which was expanded to reflect the fellowship's growth. Bill's story, Dr. Bob's nightmare, and one other personal history from the first edition were retained intact. Three were edited, and one of these was retitled. New versions of two stories were written, with new titles. 30 completely new stories were added, and the story section was divided into 3 parts under the same headings that are used now. In the 3rd edition, Part 1, Pioneers of AA, was left unchanged. 9 of the stories in Part 2, They Stopped in Time, were carried over from the 2nd edition. 8 new stories were added. In Part 3, they lost nearly all. 8 stories were retained, 5 new ones were added. This 4th edition includes the 12 concepts for world service and revises the 3 sections of personal stories as follows. 1 new story has been added to Part 1, and 2 that originally appeared in Part 3 have been repositioned there. 6 stories have been deleted. 6 of the stories in Part 2 have been carried over, 11 new ones have been added, and 11 taken out. Part 3 now includes 12 new stories, 8 were removed, in addition to the 2 that were transferred to Part 1. All changes made over the years in the Big Book, AA members' fond nickname for this volume, have had the same purpose, to represent the current membership of Alcoholics Anonymous more accurately, and thereby to reach more alcoholics.
Stop, can you highlight? Have had the same purpose to represent the current membership of Alcoholics Anonymous more accurately.
If you have a drinking problem, we hope that you may pause in reading one of the 42 personal stories and think, yes, that happened to me, or more important, yes, I felt like that, or most important, yes, I believe this program can work for me too.